Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Anchored in Hope podcast. I'm Lisa Toney, and I'm so glad you could join us today. Today, my guest is Amy Moore, and I'm so excited for her to get to share her story. But of course, I always like to start off with our guests and ask if you had any superpower. What superpower would it be? So what do you think, Amy? Have you been thinking about it?
Yes, so I think I love to travel. So I think I would do transporting, which it would be a bonus if I could hold like my daughter's hands, and then we could just fly my husband there to meet us. We would save a lot of money and get to travel.
That would be so great. And we have to mention Amy has twin girls, right? So this is actually a good economy superpower to have.
Yes. Save all that money.
Good stuff. All right. Well, we're going to dive in, and I'm so thankful that Amy's willing to share her story. Just an awesome one of redemption that we get to hear today. So, Amy, take us back a little bit. I think we're going to start your story kind of when you entered college, your college years, and you kind of had your eye on a cute dude, right?
I did, yeah. So I had gone to Moody Bible Institute because I wanted to impact high schoolers, and I'd seen my parents. My dad was a youth pastor, and they just loved our family well, loved church, and made a difference in high schoolers' lives. And I had been fortunate to come to know God and had a great group of friends in high school, and I saw the impact it had on me. So I wanted to go do the same, and I decided to go study ministry. I met this cute guy that also wanted to impact high schoolers, and we struck up a friendship. We helped out at a church there and started dating. Dated for a year.
You have to be thinking like, this is golden. This is awesome. I'm preparing for ministry, doing what I feel like God's called me to do, and I've got this awesome guy that is wanting to do the same thing.
Yes, it was. And I had given thought to the kind of guy I wanted to marry, and he had all those qualities and was on the same mind track with just loving the Lord and wanting to bring people to know the Lord in high school. And we helped out at a high school youth group, so kind of got to even do that a little bit together and see how that worked. And so, yeah, it was exciting in college. And then he proposed, and we had the year to plan the wedding, all that fun stuff. The wedding was great, and finding the dress and all those little stories you see God like incorporate into your wedding.
So you guys got married while you were still in school?
We did. So I ended up having one more semester. So we had gotten married in June and then went back to the city, which living in downtown Chicago, like not in the dorms, was great. Because I had this little apartment, you do the grocery shopping and like make sure you have enough bags so you can carry them home. And if the thunderstorm happens, you just run back. But I got to live there in the summer too, which I didn't get to do during school. And I loved it. So it was super fun. And then Christmas Eve, we moved to Southern California, which is where he got a job as a youth pastor, and we had to be at church for the Christmas Eve service. So
wow.
Back, and all of a sudden we're going to do youth ministry as a married couple, and I was very excited about that.
Yeah. So you guys came out to SoCal, and you were in Orange County, right?
We were not in Orange County. We were in Ventura County at that time, so a little bit outside of Hollywood. And yeah. We started doing youth ministry together, which I was, again, excited about, something I'd wanted to do and gone to school for. But almost immediately, there's just those little decisions that caught my attention. Not big deals at first. Like, even the first one, I feel like we got there at Christmas and we went to this big New Year's thing, Knott's Berry Farm, for all the Southern Californians who are, in their 30s like me. But we went to Knott's Berry Farm, and he had told me, okay, why don't you hang out with the girls and I'll hang out with the guys? Which was, okay, not a big deal. But because we were new, there's only a small group of us, I thought, we could all get to know each other together. They'll get to know us as a married couple. But, okay, we can do that. And I was also very mindful of the fact, my dad was a youth pastor, and I was married to a youth pastor, and they're going to do things differently. And I didn't ever want him to feel that I was judging or just even skeptical of how he's going to do it. I was very mindful of that. So we would do things separately, but it was kind of like that stuck, and I saw it keep going. And he would do his ministry, but separate from me. And that's not a good feeling. It poured over to interactions with some of the high school girls, which that's like a dangerous place to be. And when we'd have conversations about, okay, she's texting you, that's so okay, but you got to watch the hours that she texts and when she says this and what you say back, because
Right.
what it's like to be a teenage girl. And yeah, you're this cool guy in your 20s and talking to her late about her problems. There's just connection that can happen there. But when I would say something, it was, oh, but you don't trust me and I'm handling this. And if I ever wanted to invite the girls over for dinner or let's all talk about it, it was like, well, they don't want to talk to you, just me. And there was just a very separate kind of ministry. And then turned into more of his ministry and not even God's ministry, but something he had to do. And yeah, I slowly was watching this spiritual death of this husband that I loved and was excited to do ministry with. And then all of a sudden I was skeptical of where he was with the Lord, and then hearing him say he didn't want to pray anymore, didn't want to read his Bible. And I mean,
what was that doing to you in terms of kind of your own spiritual journey? I mean, were you like really questioning God, or what was happening with you while you were watching him go through this?
I think God's made me kind of like a big picture, just he's got my back. So I know I've known and like knew then people that they walk away from the Lord, but they can come back to the Lord. And I'm just like, I trust this big God. And if our story is he falls flat on his back, we have this story of hard marriage, but then he comes back. So yeah. I think I was always praying that he would meet God for real, because I saw that it was probably more of his own strength and that he never got to know the God that I knew. And I wanted him to experience that relationship and just kind of, yeah, the restoration part of it. Like, okay, God, here we go. Bring him back to you. And ours can be a great restoration story of marriage.
Right. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's not the way that it went. Tell us kind of where this path kind of led.
Yeah. So all those little things with, not little things, big things, little things, with interaction with a lot of the girls in youth group or him doing things in his own strength, was going on for a while. And I was praying. We had gone on a big mission trip to South Africa as a church. And at that point, I knew my husband's spirituality wasn't in a good place. Another one of our leaders, her spirituality wasn't in a good place. And it was just kind of like, oh, we're going on this mission trip, Lord. And I don't know what's going on with the leadership, which makes me nervous to go overseas and what's going to happen. And it was almost, God gave me a piece of like, yeah, that might happen, but just look for me in the small things. And so on this mission trip, it was disastrous. It was a lot of things going on that shouldn't happen. And it was going on overseas, just a lot of drama and back talk and just all of that. And so we got back, and it was kind of like, I found out that our pastor's daughter and my husband had gotten too close, not physically, but just in sharing and emotionally. And she was upset at me because of basically my conversations with my husband that were like, be careful how you talk, or we're not really sure where this person is spiritually. So, be mindful of that. And so he would share things with her that he shouldn't have shared. And then she'd say, well, why are you thinking this about that person's spiritual journey? Or why are you telling him? And things that she should never know, that should never have left our marriage, because it was just a conversation with us. And then I had this third party that was part of our church and part of our youth group. And that was a distinct marker, because the next 2 years, I just had to work a lot on not letting this bitter root spring up in me. We all know the verse of don't let bitterness spring up in you. And it really is for us, because a lot of times things that make us bitter are things that shouldn't be. And so instead of turning that over to God and being like, this shouldn't be, but I'm going to trust you with it and be forgiving and kind and compassionate because that's how you treat me, we can hold on to it like, this isn't right, and I'm going to hold on to that. But that would have destroyed me. And so just a lot of praying, like step by step when I'm going to youth group, how my marriage is going, still praying for my husband's restoration. And because my husband and this pastor's daughter had gotten too close, the pastor recommended we go to counseling, which we did. And then counselor just said, hey, so you love the Lord. I can see that. He doesn't. So I feel like he's going to be fine because he doesn't care about this marriage and you're going to hurt. Are you okay? Are you able to see yourself in a good light? Do you have people pouring into you? And it was kind of like this hopeless, not hopeless because you have God, but just the situation that was backed up by people going, yeah.
It's probably not what you had wanted to hear, right? You wanted a counselor to come in and maybe save the day. And so maybe when a counselor comes in and says that, you're like, oh my gosh, this is reality of what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Or even validating like, okay, this isn't just me seeing this. This is
someone else is seeing this too.
Yeah. So yeah, at the end of that, there's 2 more years of that. And then at the very end, the pastor had said, hey, you've gotten 3 strikes that you've gotten too close to girls for people's comfort, and you got to resign as youth pastor, which for me was a relief because I've been waiting for something to happen. And so then we lived next door to the church. We had 3 months to find somewhere else to live. I was looking for a new teaching job because I was teaching at a Montessori school at the time. Found one, and I told my husband about it, thinking maybe we could go and he could get some more accountability, some good friends, not be in leadership, and maybe meet the Lord. And so I told him I got this job offer, and he said, well, you go do what you got to do, which was, okay, that's not the 2 of us. And that led to a conversation. He said, I don't love the Lord. In all these counseling sessions, I've kind of realized I don't think I love the Lord. I think I just felt that I felt accepted at church, and it's an acceptance, not a God thing. I don't love you, and so I got to go figure myself out. And on Halloween 2008, he dropped me off with my parents, thanked them for taking me back, and sped off. And it was at that time like we'll meet up later, but we met up one more time after that. But that was kind of his speeding away from my life.
I'm so sorry. I can only imagine that it must have been so difficult. How did you? What did you do after, that happened?
For the next 3 months, I was at my parents' house, and I don't even really remember. My mom says I, just would eat food and journal a lot. I had started journaling kind of like my prayers and talking to God and just kind of, I guess soaking in God. I don't remember it so well, but I know I was just home a lot. And then I would have friends come visit me and family, and a lot of people that I'd known throughout my life, like on Facebook, would just be like, how are you? And correspond, and a lot of encouragement. And at the end of that,
I love that during that time you didn't walk away from God. I think it would be so tempting to kind of blame God during that time, or, accuse God, or even question yourself, like, what did I do wrong? Or, how could this have been different? But I think when you get to a place where it's just so heartbreaking and you've got nothing but God to hold on to, that can be even in the midst of that heartache, it can be a sweet time of really clinging to the Lord too.
Yeah, it was very sweet. I've been, fortunate enough to know God to the point where I knew he had me, and you can't control someone else's choice.
Right.
And whatever that meant for the outcome of our marriage, if he was going to come back or if he was going to leave, that God would walk me through, and almost like, like God just had me scooped up in his hands, and I knew we're going to have to walk down this road, but I'm not going to do it alone. And I think, anytime that hard hits your life, you either can turn away from God, like, why did you do this? Like you're saying, or you turn towards him. Those are your only choices. And so I'm glad I knew him well enough to know he had me, and we just cling tighter during that.
So God kind of, walked you through this process of healing. You guys ended up getting divorced, and then I know God kind of had a surprise for you waiting that you didn't even anticipate was going to happen. So kind of take us fast forward to kind of that next chapter.
Okay. So I had moved down to Orange County then, found another job and lived near my sister and brother-in-law, and started going to Saddleback Church. I knew I needed a community of people that were in their late 20s like me, and even a community of people that had walked through separation or divorce. So I was down there going to church, and a friend just said, hey, a group of us is watching 24. Why don't you come over tonight? And in
24. I remember
24, Jack Bauer, yeah.
Jack Bauer.
So, yes. So we loved 24, but loving more, I walked in there and there was a guy there who I found out his wife had just left him, and it was a very similar story to my own. And so he was just a guy in the group, but a very handsome guy in the group. Although at the time it was just not a romantic mindset for either of us. It was just, hey, nice to meet you. Here I am at this church. I just like said goodbye to a marriage. And so I'm reintroducing friends, and even the single thing, like there was a group of singles all in their 20s, 30s, but a lot of them had been single. And so like had their career started, or were used to going and doing these fun vacations or going out after church. And we were still dealing with, okay, we used to, go out to Chinese and watch a movie after church with our wife or our husband. And so, okay, I can go out, but it's that healing process. And so we were both healing, but seeing that each other was in the same boat and clinging to God. And so we got to know each other's stories more, and just, he was fun and he loved the Lord, and all those things started standing out. And it was such a fun, redemptive love story, because everything was so easy falling in love with him. And about a year after we were introduced, we realized, we have this really great friendship that I think is more than friendship. And he ended up asking me out, and from it was one of those that we went on the one date, and then the rest was like, all right, I think this is a good thing, and ended up getting married a year after we started dating.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been everything my first marriage wasn't. I was married for 5 years the first time, and it was not a fun marriage, because it was something's off all the time. And with Drew, it is just total opposite. We had such fun time falling in love. We've had good vacations together. And then 3 years after we were married, we were surprised with twins. And
oh my goodness, double blessing.
Yes, God just abounding and restoring all these things that, I never knew if I would have kids. I was 34 when I had them, and just okay, we're going to have two at once. So it's been very fun, and just, very cool, because it's just God choosing to do it. And you don't do anything or not do anything. It's not the circumstances in life. It's that I've got to see God just walk with me right there, and other stuff could happen again. Even marrying Drew, I was like, oh man, what if that happens to him? What if he walks away from the Lord? Or what if we have this great love story, and a month after we get married, he's in a car accident and dies? And all of those things, there's just a piece, and if that happens, God will be the same that he has always been. And I think a lot of Christians have seen that with God. Okay, when your world falls apart, and God's with you, and that
was there. Yeah,
that really is all you need to know, because he's going to fill it in step by step and bring you back and be there with you. And I love that I got to see him that way, and want other people to see him that way.
That's so great, Amy. How would you encourage someone if they're in the midst of kind of a heartbreak or a really difficult situation, or even just a really difficult marriage? How would you encourage someone? I mean, we say the idea of cling to the Lord, but what do you think that really means in a practical way? How do you do that when you're in the middle of heartbreak?
Yeah, well, I think if you are in the middle of a hard marriage, all of it is step by step. And in the middle of a hard marriage is, okay, looking for the things that God does bring you, whether it's a friendship or you meet someone else in a hard marriage that you can connect to and encourage them. Look for the things that God can bring you, and then be faithful in watching what he does with the marriage, and make good decisions. Talk to people who can help you there, but look for the other blessings. Don't be one track minded that you're missing all this stuff that God's going to support you with.
Mm-hmm.
If it is already the heartbreak, I know a lot of it was remembering what the Lord had already done in my life. And so everything is not a disaster, because remember when I did this for you, and remember when you moved, I was there. And so that was yes, I remember all that. So I know you're going to do the same thing. And then just being sad, I just need to stay home and cry right now, or watching a movie and being oh, that sparks a memory, or hearing a song on the radio as you're driving, just pull over and cry it out, and not stuffing that down, that you can't grieve that. but grieving that and then taking the confusion to God again and saying, okay, why did this happen? You don't have to have an answer. You can just ask that question. Why did this happen? And just keep asking that every time you think it, because there could be no why, but but I got you. And that's, I think, what we really need. So being honest about what you're feeling. Cry it out. Have a good coffee with a friend and have a good night of laughing, watch a movie. Just like let yourself feel all those things.
Yeah, I think that's so good, because I feel like one of the ways that you got through it was you didn't like shut off your emotions. You know, I feel like sometimes it's so easy for people to do, just be like, all right, I'm done. Like, I don't want to feel anything or, you know, be near people or feel again because it's too hard or too painful. But if we do really let ourselves get it out, whatever way we need to do that, through tears or laughter or whatever, that, you know, Jesus is really faithful in kind of bringing us through that healing process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gives you a clear head when like everything pieces back together. It's that much more joyous because you know you've been over here. You're like, oh, I'm not crying as much, and I can start to see clearly again. So
that's so awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for sharing your story with us. I hope that that's been an encouragement to you guys too, as you've been listening to that. And, you know, I mean, very rarely does life go as we have planned. And so whether it's in a marriage situation like Amy shared with us today, or in a situation that you guys may be going through, the Lord is so faithful. And I think that is what I appreciate about Amy's story, is that she really leaned into Jesus during her struggle, not away from him. And Jesus was so faithful through that, and really had this beautiful redemption story, you know, that honored that. So you never want to lose hope, even when it seems like it's a really hopeless situation, that Jesus is the God of hope, and that's what he wants to offer us. Amy, thank you for being our guest today and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
We look forward to seeing what God continues to do in your family and as your babies grow up, and that'll be so exciting.
Yes, me too.
Well, I'm Lisa Toney, and I'm here today with Amy Moore, and together we want to encourage you to anchor your soul in hope and anchor your life in Jesus.